So buildings are collapsing in Nairobi, not just in Nairobi. Go anywhere in this country. Buildings, we have things under construction, buildings collapsing, some being marked X by the National Construction Authority, which is the regulator of the building sector. What's going on? And why is what's going on going on?
Right.
That's why we've brought the mic to the ground today, here in Kilimani, which is one of the areas where we have seen rapid growth in construction over the last decade. And we are going to have a conversation with the experts in this profession, this area of building. The first one that we want to have here is Dancan Odhiambo. He is the chairperson of the Architectural Association of Kenya, Coast Branch. He's traveled all the way from the coast to come and have this conversation with us.
Thank you for having me.
Asante sana. Karibu sana. Mombasa mwambaje?
Nashukuru, tuko sawa. Kila kitu shwari.
Kila kitu shwari.
Yeah, weather nzuri, lakini county government ndio inatusumbua sana. Yeah.
Immediately, yes, sir.
County inasumbua.
Kabisa. Kila kitu kingine ni kizuri.
Yeah.
Ijapokuwa county government inachoma, so to speak, kwa lugha ya mtaa. Okay, let me start by, first of all, on behalf of AIK fraternity, pass our condolences to the victims of the two incidences. The first one in South Sea and the other one in Karen. We send our condolences to family of Miss Ngala, who passed on at the Karen site. I also want to take this opportunity to recognize probably the only consequential chief architect in the history of our country, the late architect, Gideon, who passed on last year. May his soul rest in peace. Let me start by saying that the built environment, the built and natural environment in Kenya is a very consequential section of our economy. It contributes up to 7% of our GDP. And the safety of the built and natural environment enshrined in the Constitution. Section 42 is very clear. All Kenyans have a right to a safe environment. So it really, I want to start by saying that it really frustrates us as professionals when the president keeps quiet when such occurrences and such incidences occur.
Which president?
The President of the Republic of Kenya, William Samoei Ruto. In the sense that you have a sector that contributes 7%, lives have been lost, maybe thousands have been affected by the loss in terms of collapse of the building, is not commented. What we have seen is a minister who goes to site and makes pronouncements that are against the Constitution. The minister has no power to sack an architect. Architects are regulated under Cap 525, and the body that regulates architects is called BORAX, the Board of Registration of Architects. Any architect who goes out of the way, or any professional who goes out of the way, there are statutory bodies that are able to discipline such professionals. So it was really out of character for the very able minister to make those pronouncements. Yeah.
You know, when you look at all these things that are happening, Duncan, and we had a conversation again, even with the people from the county and others in this sector. Walk us through, because you are in this space. When a building such as this one where we are in is constructed, there's a process that happens.
Yes.
Let's even go from the process of land acquisition to the end of where we have a building like this and it's opened. There's a cutting of a ribbon, there's, occupation.
Shangwe na vigelegele.
Shangwe na vigelegele. The first tenant or the first occupant gets into this building. Take us through that one briefly.
For starters, for any developer who wishes to do any structure in this part of the world, and specifically in Kenya, in East Africa, the process is very simple. You have to go and look for an architect. An architect, and architecture as a term is protected by statute. Cap 525 protects that. An architect is, let me define who an architect is, because the general public seem not to understand who an architect is. An architect is a professional who has undergone 6 years of undergraduate studies and another 2 years under pupillage, and an additional 6 to 8 months through a rigorous examination period, and then they do the exam, and the exam is a very, very robust exam which has the orals, there's a written paper, and then they become an architect. And then they graduate, so to speak.
Right.
So the first person or the first professional any developer needs to consult is an architect. An architect is the vision bearer. An architect will, of course, visit the site, and he will look at the parameters. And these parameters are many, and people seem not to understand. For instance, this setting we are in, buildings are closely packed.
Yes.
There's barely space between the buildings.
Yes.
If you look keenly, research has shown that such kind of really planning even contributes to ill health because of the lack of vitamin D that kids need to, of course, develop.
Yes.
So the architect actually looks at the parameters that really will help him in coming up with a brief. If of course, if you look at the soil condition, if the soil condition is not good, it needs to be taken care of. Prevailing wind, the climate. In this part of the world, Nairobi boasts as having one of the best climates in the world. That's why you see most of these multinationals here. So once the architect has visited the site, so it is important for the architect to visit the site and has taken inventory of the parameters that normally influence the design process.
Yes.
Then a brief is formulated. Once the brief is formulated, the architect advises the client that there's need to bring other professionals.
Right.
Let me start by...
the first professional engaged is an architect.
An architect.
First.
Exactly. He is the vision bearer. Okay. So once the client has been informed that there's need to bring other professionals, then there are two options. Either the client can come with, maybe if you have a developer who's worked with other professionals, the client can come with those professionals. It's the responsibility of the architect to vet those professionals. Number one, to ensure that these professionals are registered. And let me list them. Apart from the architect, you need a structural engineer. The work of the structural engineer is to ensure that the building structural integrity is adhered to during design, which is normally pre-contract, and after design, which is normally post-contract.
Right.
Those two stages are very critical in any project implementation. Right. You need a quantity surveyor. A quantity surveyor is like the de facto accountant. Of course, he keeps the books, comes up with preliminary cost estimates, and actually one of the functions of a quantity surveyor that is normally overlooked is contract administration. He needs to administer the contract because they are normally trained better than architects in doing that. But overall, the architect needs to be averse to all this. Okay. And then we have a physical planner. The physical planner will advise on the land use and many other parameters that of course will affect where that building sits. And of course the physical planner will also help in acquisition of certain licenses, like change of user. If you are doing a residential house,
and when you decide commercial.
Exactly. So such kind of activity, it's important to consult this. Later on, of course, you're going to involve other professionals like the landscape architect, the interior designer, the services engineer, which is highly one of the most overlooked aspect of this.
What's a service?
Services engineers are basically electrical engineers and mechanical engineers. I think if you have walked around, you'll see buildings where you have exposed pipes, poor drainage. It's because sometimes some developers normally overlook these professionals. Yeah, they're the ones who normally put this building together. So in short, look at a building from an anatomy point of view. A building is like a human being. You have the flesh, you have the skeleton. The architect is the vision bearer, comes up with the whole vision, but you need an engineer to ensure that the human form is able to stand. The engineer ensures that the bones are strong. In this case, the bones refer to the structure of the building. The electrical and the service engineer ensure that the services, by services we mean plumbing. Electricity, plumbing. In the case of the human body, the blood vessels, the nerve endings, the nerve impulses. The nerve impulses can refer to the electrical circuits. The blood vessels maybe that are servicing the kidney can be easily compared to water pipes. So that's how I want Kenyans to view a building. A building is like a human being.
So the architect is the overall.
The architect is the overall, but he works in a team. The team is, of course,
but the architect is overall in charge.
The architect is overall in charge.
Project.
Yes.
and the architect will advise the developer
Yes.
on the suitability of any of these other professionals.
Exactly. So the architect can co-opt into the team other specialists like maybe even financial analysts. Sometimes we've had scenarios where we do feasibility studies to, just get a glimpse of whether whatever project the developer wants to engage in makes financial sense.
Okay.
So all those, but our training at the university, for instance, in first year we are taught anthropology, we are taught elements of economics, we are taught elements of law. So the architect, that's why it takes 6 years. At some point in third year, fourth year, we are taught structural, normally call it theory of structures. So the architect also is able to understand how the structural system of a building works. So the architect is like architect Sylvia Kasanga clearly put it the other day. The architect is the overall vision bearer.
Very good.
Okay.
The buck stops with the architect.
So, Dancan, so basically, the buck stops with the architect.
With the architect, yeah.
When things are good,
Yes.
all praise goes to the architect.
Exactly.
When things are bad, all blame goes to the architect.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's a good place to start, because we see an increasing amount of buildings. So let me even, before we get to buildings collapsing and the menace of this collapses, the lives lost. Let's start with the basics. Like you've said, the buildings where we are very closely packed together. You've talked about it as a health hazard potentially. Lack of sunlight, no vitamin D, problematic, right?
Yeah.
I think also maybe from a structural point of view, digging foundations that deep close to each other could pose some dangers. But all these buildings were designed by architects.
Yes.
So then,
Who visited the sites?
who visited the site, they know exactly where they are. They know the issues that will come about when you design buildings this close together.
Yes.
So as professionals, our architects letting Kenyans down before we even get into, they are.
That's a good observation. Let me put it this way. Research has shown that research that was done by National Building Inspectorate last year, a sample size of less than 2,000. That is a drop from a sample size of around 20,000 that they did in 2024. Came up with a very shocking revelation that 87% of the buildings that you see are not designed by professionals and are unsafe. So that gives us a balance of 13%. Which means
87% of
87%,
the buildings in
yeah.
Nairobi or in Kenya
in Kenya
are not designed by
are not only designed by professionals, but they are unsafe.
Wait, they are or they are not designed?
They are not designed by professionals.
And they are unsafe.
And they are unsafe.
87%.
87%. Which clearly shows that a significant portion of the built environment is largely informal. Informal in the sense that it is not documented.
Yeah.
Most of these guys, of the 87%, 56% don't even have permits.
Yeah.
A significant portion don't even know who an architect is. So that clearly shows you the 13% that remains probably are fairly well designed. But let me put this. We have the Building Code of 2024, which was enacted in 2025. There are certain parameters that guide the space between blocks. They are there. But you see, if you have a weak enforcement mechanism, an architect can do a drawing where he has left a significant gap between the blocks. But you see, because of corruption, the developer wants to maximize on the piece of land. He will go to the county offices, he will pay, and he will squeeze. So most of the buildings that are finished here, if you could trace the project documentation that was done by the architect, you'll see some lapses. Most of the time they subvert the architect, because you know why they subvert the architect? Is because, number one, for a developer to get a permit, they most likely bribe in this part of the world. So when the developer has spent money to acquire development permission, he doesn't see the need of an architect. I can give you a case in Mombasa, where in the previous administration, developers used to be asked to give out an apartment block for them to get approval. So you tell me you are a developer X, you want value for money. You have gone to the county government to get development permission. Right now, any building above 8 floors are charged 3%. So assuming you're doing 3% of the project cost.
As the legal fee or
as the permit fees.
All right.
Okay.
So you have a budget of 100 million. The county government has charged you 3%. So you have paid 3 million. And then the same county government of Mombasa asked you to pay illegal facilitation of, sometimes it goes even up to 10 million.
An entire floor.
An entire floor sometimes.
10 million.
So you're left with 90 million.
Yep.
You have not paid your architect. So just to answer you, a typical developer in Mombasa, when they want, and even in Coast and most parts of Nairobi, when they are planning to do any project, they don't go to an architect. They go to the county.
Right.
Which is the wrong route.
So the county, that means that I'm assuming that at the point of application, what you submit to the county is stuff that should have been developed by an architect.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
That means that you are presenting nothing to the county.
Yeah, normally they go there just to get a glimpse. Exactly.
Without plans.
No, because they know
or do you have
that
someone else who may not be an architect
Who will develop the plans.
who will develop the plans and they have a drawing to go to the county with.
most developers in Kenya know the bottleneck is at the county. So they don't start with the architect. They know they can easily get one. So before even planning to engage an architect, they want to know whether they'll even get development permission.
Okay.
So they go to the county. The county will give them, of course, an estimate of whatever they want to do. But where above that, because of that, the absence of the architect to guide the developer, the county officials take advantage of that, and they'll tell the developer, you don't have to go to an architect. You come, you give us this amount of money. In Mombasa, for instance, there are buildings that have been complete. If you look at the system, it shows it's a boundary wall.
It shows it's a?
It's a boundary wall.
Okay.
Okay, so
But then,
Nisawa,
and it's a full building.
It's a full building. If you look at the system,
Yeah.
the parcel,
What was approved
is a boundary wall, but a
boundary
building
wall.
has been built, which means the developer got a permit that shows a boundary wall, yet he's built a building.
went and applied to build a boundary wall.
No, the developer went to the county first instead of going to the architect.
Yes.
Because he fully understands that for him to even imagine building something, he needs to get, so to speak, blessing from the county.
Yes.
So the county, because they're used to doing shortcuts, they'll tell the developer, don't go to these architects. They have their own, unregulated professionals who do the drawings and they just pass and everything.
That's what we wanted to know, because essentially someone is still drawing. Someone is still doing these plans.
Most of the time unregulated.
Unregulated.
Yeah.
Are they architects who may be unregistered,
Yes.
trained but unregistered?
Or
are
the
they
artists?
artists, quacks? Where do they fall?
I don't want to call them quacks because these are trained individuals.
Okay.
Some of them are actually just architects for hire.
Yeah.
You've heard this phenomena called credential letting. It means architects who just give out the certificates and drawings are done probably by an unregulated individual and then they just stamp.
Sasa, let's take a break.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you've actually brought to the fore,
Yeah.
but we need to discuss. We'll discuss some of them with you and others with the others when they join us in the baraza. 28 minutes after 7, we are discussing, the construction sector in this country and the unregulated and unsafe nature of it. What is happening and why is it happening? It's a professional's perspective. Dancan Odhiambo is the chairman of the Architectural Association of Kenya Coast Branch. He's our guest for now. We'll be back in a moment to talk more to him. What's your experience with the building construction sector in Kenya, wherever you are? Have you seen buildings that are coming up and you're like, yenyewe hii hata kama ni mimi, I wouldn't even come up with something like this? Or have you seen areas where maybe the regulators visit and then they chukua kitu kidogo and they move?
Right.
Or buildings that looked like clearly they were not approved for construction, or buildings that have been marked with an X, still occupied many months down the road and you don't understand why? Share with us your experiences on X or on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, where we are live streaming the show. And also you can send us on WhatsApp, 0112 500 400.
Yes.
Some comments as we come back into the conversation with Dancan Odhiambo, architect and chair of the Architects Association Mombasa branch. Dennis says, with all due respect, get an engineer there. Architects are just visionaries, and at times we alter their designs because they are not realistic. They know very little on structure designs. Well, we'll have engineers joining us in the 8 o'clock hour, and not just engineers. The quantity surveyors will also be here. The architects will still be here, and others. Francis Moyo says, watu wa kuchora cartoon, msichore nyumba please, kwa heshima.
Allah.
Watu wa kuchora cartoon, even if you are approached by a developer, ati nichore, don't. Let that job be done by an architect. Staki Mapepa is asking, he's saying, I concur 100% with Duncan. Rogue developers, sideline professionals, and even soil experts engage in illegal vertical extensions, like adding up to 4 floors. HRH Makanda is asking, is he blaming the collapse of buildings on them not having professionals? We know all collapsing buildings have architects. Jimmy says, hey folks, did you say $1 billion for Nora Consultancy? We have technocrats in the ministry. Has the government decided to outsource all activities? Dennis says,
that was on the Daily Nation story.
On the Daily Nation story.
Yeah.
So, Dancan, you've just said that you're giving us the case of Mombasa, where you're saying previous administration and even some of currently in the current administration, many developers start with going to the county for approvals because you must get approvals. So they go to the county first to sound out that they're going to get an approval by promising kickbacks.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And then that means that the developer then has no need for professionals in getting the work done.
Yeah.
But on record, there will be things that have been submitted. At the building site itself, there's a requirement by law that you shall indicate what this project is and who are the professionals behind the building. There will be architects, there will be engineers, and so on and so forth. So whose names are those that we see on the boards?
Very interesting observation you have made. AK has a very robust research team. And the information I'm giving here is actually partly contained in the status of the built environment report done by AK 2025. It's there. What we have realized even is that some of our members engage in what is called credential letting. These are individuals who don't want to join the conventional path of looking for work in a proper way, and they just give out their certificates to the county government and other parties and other players, and some of them are unregulated, and these people are the ones you see, in Mombasa, for instance, there's an architect called, and I dare name him because we have irrefutable evidence that he's been doing that. He's done more than 80% of the projects there. And he's in his 70s, 80 now. So some of even the senior professionals engage in this. So what happens is this. Because the county government of Mombasa, and the reason why I'm using the county government of Mombasa is because people think the county government of Nairobi is corrupt. I can assure you the county government of Mombasa is corrupt on steroids. And just to argument this point, the last time Mombasa was bombed was 1940. When the Italians joined the war, there was an explosion. Of course, they bombed our harbour. The Allied forces were in Mombasa, and the Italians bombed it. 85 years later, in 2025, a building in Mombasa was equally bombed. So it took 85 years for Mombasa to be bombed. That explosion itself shows you that things are bad. The fact that the state uses its instruments of violence to demolish a building in itself demonstrates how severe the situation is. And that is because
this was the demolition of that building.
Exactly.
The safe demolition of
exactly.
a building.
Not a bombing.
It was actually a bombing, so to speak, because they used explosives.
Right.
I mean,
this is
to be fair,
the demolition
explosives
of that
are used in demolitions everywhere across the world, right?
I agree.
Yes.
But for us, for the government to use such machinery to bring down a building, from a very, the face of it, you can easily tell how severe the situation is. Conventionally, if all processes had been followed, if all approvals had been gotten for the extension, if all soil investigations had been done, what we call the geotechnical reports had been done, that wouldn't have happened. In the case of that particular building, what happened is very simple. The architect who designed that building happens to be working at the county government. So as we speak, he's been suspended, he's not there. So the county government of Mombasa doesn't have an architect. So all the approvals that are being done by individuals who are not qualified.
So he was the in-house architect for the county government.
He's an architect working for the county.
And he also took a side job.
Exactly.
Designing this.
So he's highly conflicted.
All the things you're saying are pointing to the fact that architects are the problem. Because it's either legitimate architects who are certified, who are credential letting, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
So those are trained architects who have passed through the 6 years of rigorous school and the pupillage and the training, everything, and then they're letting their credentials. So they're still architects.
Yes.
Then it is architects who work for county governments who again are doing side jobs. So essentially, again, it seems that architects are the ones letting us down as far as the safety of our buildings.
Like any other profession, I mean, the other day you saw the rogue dentist who performed surgery he's not supposed to perform and the patient died. Like any other profession, we have our challenges. But AAK over the years has done robust training through CBDs. Like now we have less than 1,200 registered architects serving a population of 50 million. But of course, we have rogue architects, I must admit. And there are mechanisms that AAK and Borax has put to discipline them. However, it is the responsibility of the county government of Mombasa, number one, to ensure that their employees are not conflicted. To ensure that when, for instance, the county government of Mombasa doesn't have a service charter. In fact, I dare say that I think they have a department called corruption. The reason I'm saying this is very simple. Imagine a county government where a lawyer has been appointed to collect bribes on behalf of the county government. And we know that, and we have all that information. So that literally means that they have institutionalized corruption. Okay? So the reason why I'm pointing it to the county government is I'm not absolving the architects. Some of us are errant like any other profession. The county government, under the County Government Act of 2012, has the sole mandate to ensure that physical planning laws are adhered to.
You walked us through the process of, putting up a building approvals.
Yeah.
Walk me through the corruption chain.
Let me use, and I'm well versed in Mombasa because I happen also to be a developer there. The corruption chain in Mombasa is extremely detailed. There are quite a number of avenues where the county government solicits bribes from developers. Number one, we have what is called invoice manipulation. Developer X wants to develop a 12-story building. He can still use an architect like me or any other, because we have quite a number of good architects in Mombasa, actually some of them better than me. There's what is called an invoice that is generated that is supposed to be paid by the developer. So what some of the county government officials do is very simple. They generate an exorbitant invoice that doesn't conform to the Finance Act, for instance, because the Finance Act, the County Finance Act normally stipulates the amount to be paid every year.
The amount to be paid to architects?
No, the amount to be paid as permit fees.
Oh, okay.
Permits.
Okay.
So the invoice manipulation works like this. They generate a very exorbitant invoice. They blackmail the developer and tell him, you're supposed to pay 12 million for a 120 million project. So the developer becomes frustrated. Right. And once the developer goes into the county offices, they tell him, for us to reduce your invoice to an hapo you may attend. So they end up doing what is called double invoicing. So they generate another invoice that is lower based on how much the developer is willing to part with. So if the developer gives them like 2 million, that invoice will go down maybe to around 2 or 3 million. Okay? So that money goes into some pockets. And that's why I'm saying there's a lawyer. I actually wrote to the lawyer. I told him, whatever you're doing is wrong. There's a lawyer who takes that money because they've realized ESCC are on there. I've even written to ESCC. Okay, that is one channel. Right. The other channel is this. You can imagine county employees demanding tenders from a developer. Okay? Excavated material. In Mombasa, we have very good coral, that is maram. Some of them even ask for that material, for them to issue the permits. That's another channel. Others, like the other day, a developer was told to pay 50,000 per floor for him to get approvals.
Wow.
That is 50,000 way and above the permit fees he has paid. Okay? So these are things this information we're receiving from our members in Mombasa, and some of them, the reason why I'm talking about Mombasa is because even Nairobi architects practice in Mombasa. Yeah.
Both ways.
Go ahead.
No, it's just incredibly worrying.
Yeah.
I understand how 87% of our buildings are unsafe when the corruption is this ingrained. However, what is the Architects Association doing?
Yes.
Because you've said you've written to the EACC. Fine. Have you instituted any legal proceedings? Because these are criminal matters, essentially. They deal with the safety of our buildings. It's a public health hazard. So essentially, what are the non-rogue architects doing? Because you are aware of the corruption. You're aware of how much it costs us financially, health, everything. But writing to the EACC is not enough.
Very good question. What we have done as AK is we have petitioned the county government, for instance, of Mombasa, In December, we were invited by and I must really commend the county government of Mombasa Speaker. He's a very concerned leader, and he invited us to present a petition outlining. And let me put it this way: we don't just outline the problems; we give solutions. I can give you an example. Of course, there's that petition just to answer you, but I also want to bring solutions.
But before that, why are these people, if you're telling me there's an 80-year-old architect who has been credential letting for decades, how is he still a registered architect in Kenya? As a professional body, it's within your mandate to remove such people if you know this is what they're doing. Again, if someone is working for the county government, but also taking on side projects, if one building that someone constructed is considered, not constructed, basically designed, is considered unsafe, why are they still a practicing architect? As a professional body, where are your professional ethics?
Very good question. AK has done something. We've written to the regulator. AK cannot deregister an architect. What AK can do is to collect evidence and present this evidence to a board. It's a government board. It's called Board of Registration of Architects and Quantity Surveyors, BORAX. And present the evidence so that BORAX can deregister. So only BORAX, not AK, not the Minister for Lands, only BORAX has the powers to discipline an architect or a quantity surveyor who's errant.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
How does BORAX work with AAK? AAK supports the professional development of architects, right?
Yeah.
AAK does the CPDs, right?
BORAX does the same as well.
And BORAX does the same.
Yeah.
But there is a great assumption here that the leadership of BORAX contains members of AAK, or at least the architect's body, and members of the quantity surveyors body, right? That they are members of these two associations in good standing. So they understand when AAK comes to BORAX, AAK will have red carpet, welcome to BORAX. Same with the quantity surveyors body. Now, if AAK raises concern about one of its members, or non-members, but one of the members of the profession, and takes it to the regulator, why would the regulator not take action if there is sufficient evidence and concern being raised by the Professionals Association?
Like any other government institution, the regulator, BORAX is actually a government institution.
Yes, of course.
It has its work plans and its priorities. But I must say that with all due respect to, of course, the board that regulates me, over the years we've had a BORAX that I don't want to say ineffective, a BORAX that really needs to really up their game. AK has done a lot. I mean, we have the Mulika Mijengo initiative where we, pinpoint those buildings that have, flouted the regulations. So just to shoot blankly, BORAX has really let us down. Okay.
So now here's the thing, Dancan. With all due respect to you and your fellow professionals, this is all shadow boxing. All right? Instead of actually accepting that this profession has failed, this profession has become, Bonoko has gone rogue. You are going and telling us about the county government. We ask you about the regulator. You're like, the regulator is also wrong, and so on and so forth. It just shows us that this profession is actually just rogue. People who are submitting applications for approval, I am sure, I'd imagine, that there's a sizable percentage of the applications that are taken to county governments of Mombasa, Nairobi and others that actually come from certified architects with them, right? But if you look at the quality of what we are seeing in the market, over 80% is actually buildings that are not designed by professionals or are unsafe. Now I can see the 87% though. If you go outside of the urban areas, in the rural areas, you'll find buildings that are obviously they didn't go into all that. But in the urban areas, if there's an approval that has been sought with the local authority, then a professional was involved in a majority of the cases. Now, the same professionals are coming to tell us that it's the county that is rogue, that is corrupt, and they are not accepting their role in this. I have a problem with that. A big problem with that.
It's a fairly how do I put it? It's not really a fair comment, and the reason is very simple. Largely, the professionals that we have, and I'm not talking only about architects. I'm talking about architects, I'm talking about engineers, quantity surveyors, planners, project managers are part of AAK. We have a big ecosystem. Largely our members are fairly professional because number one, AAK does CPDs yearly. This year we're going to do the first
What's a CPD?
CPDs these are continuous development programs where we train these architects and we show them, of course, we expose them to the best practices. Borax also does a lot of that. But let me put it this way.
And it's a condition. It's a condition for getting a renewal.
Exactly. It's a condition that
number of CPD
once you get the
points.
points, you're able to get a practicing license.
Okay.
But let me put it this way. I tend to think, and this is a personal opinion, that we have a corruption problem in this country.
Of course we do.
All of us, right from, of course, the highest officer, the presidency, to that physical planner down there. And data is there to support this.
No, let's not politicize this.
I just want to give
We
you
have
a
a
context.
corruption problem right from the most qualified person.
Yes.
And that is the senior most architect in this country, to the least qualified person, that is Eric, who can't draw a building.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Yeah, let's start with that.
So that is something we need to work on. I memean, Kenya is ranked number 121 out of 180. Out of number one being the least corrupt. So that is something that, of course, we have to talk about it. AK also has a disciplinary committee that has, over the years, been really investigating some of these cases where, like you've correctly mentioned, professionals end up, being rogue. So we are doing our part. But like I've mentioned, there is a regulator who is supposed to step up and take it to another level. And that is where now the failure is.
The regulator is, listen.
Yes.
This is a point.
Yeah.
Let's move from the bodies to the individuals.
Yeah.
Okay? The regulator is either an architect or a quantity surveyor in Borax, right?
No, there are some of the regulators, of course, we have other professionals there, but yes, largely.
Those that will influence the decisions, it's either an architect or a quantity surveyor.
Yes.
So if the regulator is rogue,
Yes.
architects and quantity surveyors are rogue.
I think those are your words,
Latif. Because I have never heard the body of architects coming to say we have a rogue regulator.
I'm not
or
saying
coming to demand changes in the leadership or the composition of the regulator. I have not heard that. I have not heard the body of architects and quantity surveyors talking about their own associations. The architects coming to say, you know what, at the Architectural Association of Kenya, our leadership is not championing professionalism. Right, as an association of professionals, and we need to make changes. You keep having your elections, you keep electing new officials, but we're still seeing this. We basically have. I am looking for the other word that I can use to, but let's just say we just have rogue professionals who have completely failed themselves, and they're now failing the country.
I don't agree with that school of thought. Like I've mentioned, AK as an association, formed in 1967, we are in our 68th birthday now, has over the years promoted excellence in the built environment. But like any other profession, we have some few elements that don't toe the line. What has AK done? A number of things. I mean, like I've mentioned, we have continuous training, but fundamentally speaking, Latif, there's moral decay in this country. Let's agree on that.
Yes.
All of us
That's
have
the point I'm making.
We're not disputing that.
And it cuts across.
That's the point I'm making.
It's an indictment of your profession, though.
Yes.
If I went through, for example, the AAK, all letters, etc., memoranda, petitions that you have sent to Borax, right? Will I find every rogue architect, rogue in quotes, will I find every person who has designed a building that was unsafe, every person whose stamp was on a building that is considered unsafe?
Yes. You will, because you see, even for Borax,
every single one.
not all of them, of course. I'll be lying by admitting that.
Because if Borax come here, I'm sure the next thing they'll say is, we don't get complaints from the Architects Association, or we don't get enough complaints, or they don't come with enough evidence, when it is clear as day. So I don't have the back-end information of how many architects you have indicted or you have petitioned to have removed by Borax, but we will have them on as well, and I'm sure they'll be like, no, we don't get as many as you would think. But if 87% of the buildings in the country are unsafe,
Yes.
then that means that essentially only maybe half or less than practicing architects should be practicing. Like there's clearly, a discrepancy.
Yeah.
So again, it's an indictment to your profession. And you're right, moral decay, corruption, big problem for all of us.
Yeah.
But you are, like you said, the vision bearer. You're also the gatekeeper in part.
Yeah.
So where's the gatekeeping?
I agree. AK is still determined to bridge the gap, Latif and your co-host. And we have quite a number of programs to do that. Top on the list, like I've mentioned, is we continuously explore best practices all over the world. We organize because we have to benchmark. In December, I was in Singapore courtesy of a client, and I went to the University of Singapore and talked to a few of the professors. I went to the housing board there just to gather information on what we can do better. There's always room for improvement, but I can assure you, AK led by architect, our president, George Arabu, very able president, is more than willing to improve. We know we have a lot to do, but like I've mentioned, we have a very dedicated team here. We have, I believe we have the vision because we have quite a number of programs that you have put in place. And of course, we have people like you to check us and we take the blame. I agree with you. We need to do better.
Let's take a break and bring in the other professionals. So we'll have you stay on as an architect. We'll bring other members of the Architectural Association and the Architects Alliance.
Yeah.
We'll also bring in quantity surveyors. We'll bring in engineers and other professionals in this built. We call it what? We call it built and natural environment.
The built and natural environment,
Yes. They'll be joining us for the baraza. We are bringing the mic to the ground today so we can talk about the safety of our construction sector and what's happening around it. We've been having a conversation with the chair of the Architectural Association of Kenya Coast Branch, Dancan Odhiambo. He'll stay on in the next one. We'll have more people joining us. It's about a minute to 8 a.m. Good morning.